Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa if you are new here. In this video, we'll be answering the question if we as Christians should reject writings that are not infallible or not considered inspired. Now, there are many texts outside of sacred scripture that we use as faithful Christians to get a better understanding of what Christians believed and taught in the early church. However, since these texts seem to be fallible, a lot of people would claim that we should not use them, or they're not that important, or just disregard them. Let's just look at sacred scripture. And some would even claim that we should just disregard these texts entirely if they have any discrepancies or inaccuracies embedded in the text. So should we as Christians reject these texts if there are some inaccuracies or discrepancies in them? Or is there any benefit or merit in reading these texts? I would argue for the latter position, that we should still take these texts into consideration even if there are some things found in the text that are either not true or misunderstood, or we've developed doctrine or we've developed understanding. I still think that we should look at these texts and take them into consideration. Now, I'm not saying to make them infallible, but I do think that they're important. And why do I think this? I believe this because these texts and these writings give us an insight of what the earliest Christians believed about certain topics. An example of a text that a lot of people disregard or dispute or are in favor of is the Proto-Evangelium of James. The Proto-Evangelium of James is not an inspired writing. There are Christians who disregard this text entirely. There are Catholic Christians who recognize this text, and then there's Catholic Christians who go along with other Christians and they disregard it entirely. And many of this disregarding is that some of the facts are inaccurate, or we have a better understanding, or that we don't know entirely where this text came from. So a lot of people will reject this text, but I advise not to do that. The reason why I advise not to do that is that it gives us an understanding of what the earliest Christians believed of the life of Mary. In fact, there are some things in the Proto-Evangelium of James that we do take to heart, where we get a better understanding of the life of Mary. For example, we learn the names of her parents, and we believe this fact of the name of her parents to be true. So, technically, even those who want to disregard the text entirely do not disregard it entirely. Now, just because something or a document is not entirely accepted, or maybe some things are not entirely true, or maybe understandings have developed, and so therefore what the claims are made in the document are no longer true anymore, does not mean that we should disregard the text entirely. Now, I can write a paper about the earth, the atmosphere, and I can quote as many sources as I can, all these scientific studies, all this information. But then in the paper, I write that when you see a stop sign or you see a red light, that you're supposed to go through it, and when you see a green light, you're supposed to stop. Now, just because I made this error of judgment or this error does not mean that my entire paper about the Earth's atmosphere is incorrect. In fact, this paper would probably give you a better understanding as to why I have so many red light tickets. Just kidding, I don't drive, and I'm not that dumb, by the way. I understand that the purple light means to speed through, and that the red, white, and blue lights that are behind you on the freeway mean it's a dance party. I'm not that dumb. But anyways, yes, some texts that are not inspired may have some inaccuracies, some discrepancies, some false claims, but that does not mean that these texts are entirely wrong to look at, because they are helpful and useful for a better understanding of what the earliest Christians believed. Now, when reading these texts, we must be prudent. We must understand where they're coming from, understand the context, understand the belief system of that time. Now, we also need to be prudent about reading texts that are inspired, because we need to understand the context of the text. We need to understand who wrote it, who it was written to, stuff like that, to really get a better understanding of what the text is actually teaching, even an inspired text. So guys, I hope you found this video informational and give you something to think about when we're disregarding texts because they're not considered inspired. Now, we should read all of the resources that we have been provided. We have 2,000 years of information that's been provided to us. Now, we must be prudent in reading these writings, but we must be prudent in reading a bunch of things. So we can take these writings and apply them to sacred scripture to get a better understanding of what the earliest Christians believed and understand what society dealt with maybe in the earliest church. So guys, if you happen to like this video, please give it a like. And if you like me and you want to see more of me, please hit the subscribe button and also turn on the bell notification so you're notified when I post. And I look forward to seeing you guys all in my next video. Bye-bye. Bye.